Welcome to the SAP End of Financial Year Market Report. We're going to be going through tips, tricks, and market insights around what's been happening in the SAP world. Once you get to the end of this video, we'll be answering all Q&A questions, and give us a shout if you need anything else. All right, perfect. So welcome to the end of the financial year SAP Market Report. You probably know this. Some of you may know this already, but maybe some of you don't, or maybe it's your first session joining us. Every quarter, the SAP team, and there's 9 of us, including Chris and I here, go through kind of all of the market trends, the statistics, what we're seeing from our customers and candidates, and basically giving you a sort of pulse check on what's happening in the market. So this one is a bit of a different one because it's the end of the financial year, but also we've given a little bit of an interesting spin. Our director is a big football fan, so he's focused on the World Cup analogies quite heavily in this, so bear with us across those. But yeah, we'll kind of go straight into it. So probably the first thing to kind of go over is there's going to be market insights. We'll also talk about kind of our SAP community, the podcast, and then at the end also we'll talk a little bit about the Ride for Lives charity ride that we'll be doing later on this year. Now, one of the biggest things that we always get asked whenever we're in these types of conversations is what's happening in the market. And our kind of director has been watching a lot of football recently, so he's been liking it to the kind of World Cup qualification mode. Now that the tournament's begun, it's kind of an analogy for all of the S4 programs that are going to start kicking off this financial year, now that we're going into this new financial year. And in general, we'll kind of be talking a little bit about what's been happening with businesses across kind of the ANZ market to see, is it going to be a period of growth? Is it going to be a period of slowdown? In general, what we've been seeing is that there's been a lot of slowdown in what we would typically see as kind of programs accelerating. And now it's kind of getting to an inflection point where we're going to start seeing those programs materializing. So business cases are kind of getting done now. We're waiting for those kind of final rounds of funding, securing budgets, selecting vendors. But there's a lot of our customers now that are getting to that point, which means that naturally there's going to be a lot more vacancies that will come as a result of that. And I mean, in general, from what we've seen as a team, there's been a big increase of volume of vacancies, which is the same now in terms of World Cup analogies again that he talks about. The volume of games is significantly increased as well, of course, now that we're going through the kind of stages, because there's more teams that have obviously qualified for the World Cup this year than previous. Now, one of the things that we'll really kind of dig into as well is what are the differences from kind of the previous quarter to this quarter, but then also, what we're seeing on the ground here. So we'll kind of move into that now, and I'll let Chris kind of take it away.
Yeah, so like in terms of the skill sets and the candidates that are most in demand, like over the last year, 2 years, we've seen a big demand, most concentrated at the top. So, as customers and as clients go through, planning for these projects, they all obviously have to get a team in place. And I guess the first place that they will start is your program managers, program directors, solution architects, enterprise architects, that kind of layer of leadership to deliver these programs are, what is most in demand over the last 12 months. And that's been a constant really in the last quarter, but also in the last 12 months. So people with this type of skill set are, very much in demand, and organizations are crying out for these people to, help them before they begin the implementation, to help them with that vendor selection, to help them with the hiring of people that layer below. So people at that level are definitely where we've been seeing the most demand. And we are recommending to candidates, if they can upskill in these areas, maybe you're a really strong project manager and want to get into program management or program director, or if you want to get into the architecture side of things, that upskilling is definitely something that we've been seeing people do, and people having success doing that for sure.
And I think to build on that, kind of what we've kind of seen as well across the market is, obviously these skills are really important, but the other side of it is the soft skills. So obviously, you can get that kind of senior leadership experience, or you can start, riding up to the top, and you can be technically really sound and very good. But if you don't have the soft skills to kind of cover that, that's one of the areas that we're seeing a lot of our customers kind of double down on. And that's the ability to run workshops. That's the ability to communicate to senior stakeholders, to really kind of get everyone in a room together and kind of align. And I think at the moment, Obviously, you have SIs that do a lot of heavy lifting on implementation projects, but where we're seeing a lot of kind of custom demand is where there's people on the the end user side that is actually kind of being able to articulate the requirements effectively to the different teams, but then also being able to kind of be that spokesperson, and that's something that we're seeing a lot of. Now, to build on that, in general, this is kind of a market now where not every customer is at the same part of their journey. Like we've probably seen, differences now. You've got ECC to S4 migrations that have been public cloud and private cloud. You've also got now, in general, kind of smaller organizations as well that have grow fast with SAP now. For organizations that want to kind of have little bolt-ons of modulars before they go into kind of big implementations. And then you've also got rollouts and everything else. But it's similar to the World Cup. Not every nation features in the World Cup because they don't get through those kind of qualification rounds. And it's very similar at the moment in terms of what we're seeing with the market, because you've got some customers that are still building and still kind of figuring out what they want to do. Which ERP are they going to choose? Are they going to go SAP? Are they going to go another one? And there's a lot of competition in the market now with regards to ERP projects as well. So we've kind of seen an uptick now in SAP projects that are actually getting to that point where they're kind of ready to start. We were hoping that was going to be the case last quarter, and we didn't really see that. Now we're really starting to see customers gearing up to start their S4 programs, and they're really hiring in mass to kind of get those done. And that's not even in just one specific area. There's obviously different areas. There's functional consultants, there's technical resources. Even some massive programs now are even looking for ABAP resources as well to kind of cover shortfalls where the SIs don't really have that. And I think that the biggest thing, and probably that we've noticed in this kind of quarter, is we're kind of in a sweet spot. There's enough activity now to generate kind of, confidence within the market. And when we start seeing confidence in that market, it means that customers start hiring in the perm space as well, because they're building out internal teams to kind of cover the BAU side, but also the project side, as well as, other resources are being taken out of there. So historically, there is that kind of window that doesn't stay open for long. As kind of more S4 programs are going to kind of continue their kind of delivery phases, there is going to be that need for additional resources, and there will be fierce competition as well from a candidate point of view. And we're kind of seeing now a point where the pendulum is swinging more towards a candidate-driven market rather than a client-driven market, which was what we were seeing before. So that kind of conversation has shifted now, where some customers were going, okay, well, it's not whether organizations are going to move to S4, it's actually when and how they're going to do it. So it's all about making sure you get the right resources in. As Chris mentioned, obviously making sure you have the right type of people in senior leadership, so enterprise architecture, program directors, managers, architects. And a lot of customers, the conversations we're having at the moment is, hey, we want to do S4. Who are we going to need to kind of bring us to kind of get there? And a lot of those conversations are around, S4HANA delivery PMs and things like that with the kind of relevant experience.
Yeah, definitely. And just touching on Seb's point, we've seen a lot of consultancies at the moment are very, very busy in building up their teams to, approach and attack these S4HANA programs. And that early sign of, the consultancies hiring is always a positive point. But in terms of the next half of the year, our outlook is really, really bullish. So we do project a lot of activity to continue in the second half of the year, both contracts and permanent, which will be great. There is signs, like Seb mentioned, of a war for talent. So it is starting to shift more towards a candidate-driven market, which means for candidates, be aware of, you may have multiple offers, you may have multiple opportunities that will be coming up at any one time. So really asking yourself, what it is you want on the market and what you want your next role to be is vital. For customers and for organizations, having retention strategies in place is vital as well. So, your talent and your employees are going to be tapped on the shoulder for, big projects that are happening, and they may have their head turned for a big 24-month project that's going to be coming up. So, having, things in place to, keep this talent in-house and, really see the investment that you put in to these people over the last 12 months, keeping them in-house is really key. So that's only going to be defined by, strong leadership. having a really clear and well-tested strategy and, a careful approach when selecting, different individuals that you hire for programs, putting that groundwork into keeping them is really important. Another thing with that, that obviously does give a lot of opportunity to candidates. So that power shift, like we mentioned, it is now an employee-driven market. So candidates will have the opportunity to, look elsewhere if they're not happy in their current role, and look for what they want next. But like I said, having that really defined idea of what you want out of your next role is really important. So the businesses that are succeeding at the moment are people who are securing talent quickly. They're not sitting on their hands. They know what they need. They have clear priorities. They know that they're going to need an architect in 3 months' time. If an architect shows up at their door in 2 months' time, they're moving on that person really quickly. Whereas, where the competition may be waiting for a certain amount of time to hire somebody, the competition is moving quickly once they know what they need and getting them in place as soon as they can. So the war for talent is definitely on the horizon, very much like 21, 22, when it was just a crazy market. We do feel like the second half of the year could be very familiar to that.
And I think the other point to kind of add on what Chris has been saying is, especially when it comes to competing, customers, and obviously you've got a short talent pool in general. The kind of message we have to our clients and kind of an education piece that we've been kind of going along all of this as well is, to get the best people, there needs to be a degree of flexibility on both sides. So for example, if you've been in the market for quite some time and, you're kind of figuring out that you're not really getting the roles that you're looking for, or for example, you've got very strict kind of ideas of what you want in a role, whether that be, let's say, 2 days remote or fully remote and everything else. Of course, that's great, and I don't think you should compromise that too much. But I think there's also some customers that, for example, need people on site to deliver a piece of work because there are a lot of workshops, for example. But on the flip side of that, we're also seeing that the customers that have that flexibility, that have the ability to kind of take someone on remotely, or someone, for example, from Adelaide for a Sydney-based project, or vice versa, really do get access to a bigger talent pool as well. So I think for us, the kind of expectation for flexibility definitely works both ways. And kind of organizations that are offering those kind of hybrid working models are the ones that typically maintain a broader pool of candidates compared to those kind of requiring more rigid arrangements. And I mean, even probably just through the kind of roles Chris and I have been working, we see a lot of customers that say, hey, you know what, we need someone 5 days a week or 4 days a week. And those roles become very difficult to fill when you have kind of the strict guidelines with it. As soon as you open it up, then you've obviously opened it up to a larger talent pool, but you also open up for someone that's, for example, amazing, that's based in Brisbane, that can, come down to Melbourne or whatever have you, or, work remotely. And I think the businesses that Chris mentioned there are kind of securing the best talent. They're the ones that they have clear priorities, they have streamlines, they have the ability to be flexible where they need to be, and they can move quickly to secure the right candidate, because it is going to start becoming sort of a war on talent in this next quarter for sure. Now, one of the biggest things for us, and you probably know this anyways if you guys have been following us on LinkedIn or any of our social medias, is we like to bring back and give back to the SAP community. So we are going to be hosting another event, this time in Melbourne, with Ashley Saltzman, who is the author of The Man Who Diffuses Bombs, to talk about, where he kind of goes into specific kind of projects to either rescue them or go through kind of, some tricky engagements. So that next piece of work and that next event is going to be happening in November. But as always, we have a lot of resources on our hands for you guys as well. So go onto our website, check our LinkedIn. We obviously have many podcasts on the Spotify and Castos apps across S4HANA and other products as well. And, if you have any specific kind of questions, or even if you want to recommend a new speaker or have any questions around something that's been happening in your world, then feel free to reach out to us. And obviously we'll be happy to help. Last but not least, I'll get Chris to talk about the Ride for Lives.
Yeah, so every year we do a charity fundraiser for the Black Dog Institute for mental health. So this year we are actually doing a charity bike ride from Sydney to Byron Bay. So 7 days of cycling, 780 kilometers. I think we've got a team of maybe 20 people sign up to do it. Myself and Seb have given that one a miss, unfortunately.
Didn't feel like cycling 780 kilometers.
But if anyone feels, I guess they want to donate to that, we can definitely share a link with you to donate for that. And we'll be doing that in October. So yeah, if you feel like you want to donate, let me know, and we can certainly share you the link for that. Okay.
And if you want to get involved, or for example, you want to just kind of be part of that as well. What we had last time is we had people kind of joining remotely and cycling from their homes, which I know Chris and I are also going to be doing. We're going to be kind of racking up the kilometers in the gym. So, if that's something you want to get involved with, then just let us know. But the link's all down there. We'll share this market report afterwards anyways. And now we'll kind of break out into the Q&A session. So one at a time. I know there's loads of you here. But just let us know kind of what are the burning questions, and we'll endeavor to answer them as best we can.
Guys, I might jump in here with a quick question. Just
Yep.
around success factors, do you see that market kind of pick up?
Yes, great question. Yeah, 100%. I think one of the things that Chris and I are no strangers to is how busy the success factors market is all year round, and that obviously includes payroll. There was a little bit of a point where customers had kind of already got all their resources in, or the SI was doing the heavy lifting, and there was a little bit of a slowdown with Payday Super just being implemented and kind of all the other changes across customers either moving from other payroll systems to ECP. That's going to be a big one. But also a lot of organizations now are going through a period where they're actually implementing EC for the first time. And that might be an organization that doesn't have SAP already and as you know, done the full business case. They've checked out all the other kind of HCM systems and they've set on SAP. And we've already got about 12 projects already in Melbourne that are supposed to kick off next year. But across all the different states, there'll be a lot of work coming in that space. And that's organizations that are going to do it in phases. So you'll have New South Wales rollouts, you'll have Queensland rollouts, you'll have customers in Perth that are finally doing kind of success factors uplifts, as well as the onboarding 2.0 and smart recruiters stuff as well. So that space will definitely be continuously very busy.
That sounds great. Thank you.
No worries.
Another quick question. Is ECC, there's a fund for ECC expiring 2027? Is that right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So, 2027 is the deadline for people to at least start their journey to S/4HANA, or at least buy a license. That's kind of what people have been building towards over the last, 3 or 4 years. And we're now starting to see that, like Seb mentioned in the report, it's no longer, do we need to go to S4 or will we go to S4? It's how do we go to S4? So that's kind of where we're seeing a lot of the big projects happening over the next few years and over the last couple of months as well.
Right. So that's part of the trigger as well. Okay.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right. Thanks.
No worries. Hey, Karthik.
Yeah, hi Sebastian. Yeah, as I mentioned, I'm a student. I have 3 years of experience in SAP Finance.
Yep.
So yeah, at the end of this year, I'm going to finish my studies. So I'm looking forward for SAP markets. Like, how should I go in the jobs in current SAP market? How is the demand for SAP FICO?
So do you mean how's the market at the moment for finance roles, or are you asking kind of what you can do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean,
Kind of both questions. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. One of the biggest things at the moment that we've seen in the SAP market, and I'm sure everyone kind of attests to this that's in this call, is that there's not enough coming from the bottom of the funnel, which is people that are coming out of university graduates and people that come in with sort of 2 to 3 years experience as well. We've got a very big talent pool of senior people And a lot of those people are kind of gearing towards retirement now. So the fact that you're in here, Karthik, as well is awesome, because you'll be the next generation of SAP professionals that are obviously going to help support, kind of keep that kind of talent pool alive. So in terms of finance, yes, that's still going to be a kind of area that customers are going to need. They'll still need functional finance people, especially with all the changes across S4 and in general, if you're looking at different versions of S4 HANA as well, private and public cloud, then there's obviously kind of changes there. It depends on what area you focus on, whether that's just finance and controlling or whether that's controlling or not. Some certain customers will have requirements in either one of those areas or maybe sometimes even specific areas as well. But finance will still remain a kind of core component. And we're still seeing a lot of consultancies now asking for people as well to help do their fit gap analysis for customers that are trying to understand how they can kind of change their kind of their FICO environments. So that's still definitely something to have a look at. I think in terms of you as an individual, focus on your ability to articulate concepts well, focus on your ability to lead workshop discussions and being able to kind of align with different stakeholders. And that will kind of be the kind of differentiator for you if you're having an interview with someone else, for example, that's super technical, but maybe isn't as good, articulating certain requirements or certain themes. That will be kind of the differentiator of you getting that role versus someone else. So those would be the kind of key points I would say to that.
Yeah, and feel free to send across your CV to us, Karthik, as well, and we can upload your details onto our database, and once you're ready to find something new, we'll reach out. Okay.
Yeah, you can see like there are a lot of higher position roles I can see in the LinkedIn, but I'm not sure. For my experience, like 3 years is still count because I have overseas experience, not an Australian experience, but the organization still looking for such candidate like me.
Yeah, for sure. We can take this offline with you, Karthik, as well, and have a proper chat with you once we finish here.
Thank you.
Okay.
No worries. Yeah, hi, Mike.
Hi. I just want to check or ask you, what's the demand for SAP DataSphere and SAP Analytics Cloud at the moment? And do you also notice that trend where they would require some multi-skills? Just like, for example, at the moment, I'm actually working in DataSphere and SAP Analytics Cloud because they want to decommission BW.
Yes.
By 2027 as well, it will be no choice. It will be the end of support.
Yeah, correct.
SAP. And aside from SAP, I also have Google Cloud skills as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because my client is currently wants to use Google Cloud as a replacement for the AWS data warehouse.
Yeah, understood. So what would be your question, Mike?
The demand, maybe
okay.
It's like what level, and then which particular cities in Australia?
Okay,
Do
sure.
you see the most demand for these?
Yeah, we have been seeing a big demand for DataSphere, particularly a lot of the consultancies are always looking for DataSphere, and that's across the country. So like the likes of the big four, Accenture, Deloitte, even smaller consultancies who are maybe looking at, I guess, public cloud, private cloud type of projects, they're always looking for DataSphere people. So yeah, I would maybe focus your time with consultancies to start with if it is, your first role here or whatever.
End user companies, right?
So some end user companies, but a lot of the end users will get the consultancies to come in and do the work for them. So that might be a good starting point.
Say again, sorry, Mike?
That's also the trend here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
They tend to have more vacancies in consulting rather than the end users.
Because the consultancies will do kind of all the heavy lifting from a technical perspective, and users will typically try and limit, the people they have internally, obviously for project wise, because then, after BAU side, it's kind of a switch of resources. But I mean, similar to what Chris is saying, we've been seeing demand from consultancies for BDC resources for sure, analytics resources for sure as well. It's not to say that end users aren't going to hire those resources from time to time themselves, but we'll typically see it very consultancy leaning.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Anyone else?
Just a quick one around AI and
Yeah.
automation. Are you seeing an uptick in requirements for that sort of overall or, overarching role where you'd be looking after agents, etc., or not yet?
I think the answer is not yet. Like, obviously AI is a big buzzword and everyone's talking about it, and obviously SAP are trying to push it as much as possible, because obviously there's different bolt-ons and everything else. But I think it's obviously still a big forefront of how organizations are going to build AI and obviously build their kind of bots to do all the automated stuff that they want to do. But to do that, you obviously have to make sure that it's an SAP standard, and you're not having a heavily customized environment that doesn't break. For example, if you have a WalkMe attached to it or something, then you don't want it to break the integration. But in general, from our customers and what we've been seeing, we haven't been getting loads of roles where it says, okay, you need AI or you need automation experience. That being said, from a testing perspective, we have started getting more requirements for kind of test automation, and specifically people that have worked in test automation environments and have actually built scripts to kind of build those kind of testing platforms and environments out. So I think from an SAP standpoint, it is still going to be very much heavily sought after. But is it going to kind of be the front kind of facing skill? Probably not just yet. I know obviously when SAP themselves are hiring, and they're obviously going to be looking at, how we can get people in that have the AI and machine learning capabilities and things like that as well. But from the kind of roles that we've been receiving on the ground, we haven't really had those in our kind of job specs when we're speaking to customers that often.
Yeah. Because I know project I'm working on at the moment, it's almost like a bit of a mad scramble to use AI. Everyone just try it. It's not such a structured, I guess, undertaking, which I'm wondering if the projects that are coming through, the newer ones, have that built in to include that AI sort of stream, I suppose you'd say. But it still might be too early.
Yeah, I think it is little bit too early. I think a lot of, I guess, SAP's main focus is just getting people on S4HANA first and foremost. That is the focus between now and 2027. And I guess there will be elements that S4HANA can interact with AI eventually. But I don't think that's fully defined just yet. I think, it's ever moving, isn't it? Like AI is just changing every week, really. So it could change quite quickly. But for now, we've not seen many big requests for, we need this person to be an AI specialist. It's not been something that's been communicated too much.
I'd say it's more at the sort of senior levels, so like head of data, head of governance, that are kind of focusing on how they're going to build strategies around how AI is going to be used within the business. But I agree, obviously it's everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's being told to use it. Everyone's being told to kind of experiment with it. But at the moment, is it the forefront of all the kind of roles that we're seeing? No. Does that mean that it might not change? No, it definitely could swing that way. But at the moment, that's what we've been seeing.
Yeah. Okay, great.
So any final questions, guys, before we finish? Just conscious of the time. We'll have a couple more minutes if anyone wants anything else to be answered.
Hi Sebastian, hi Chris, this is Ronald. I had a question regarding SAP production planning on the manufacturing side. Have you been seeing any demand in that area? Like, what is the trend in SAP manufacturing PP?
With PP, I've not seen too much. More kind of SD from a kind of manufacturing standpoint. With PP, more end users have been looking for that as kind of BAU support. I haven't seen a whole lot from like an implementation side of things with S4HANA. So yeah, not too much, to be honest.
I think it's also like in Australia and New Zealand in general, and probably across ANZ, like manufacturing isn't a massive part of Australian businesses. So obviously it's niche, it's in smaller areas, but also, like, for example, customers will have MM, they'll have SD, they'll have PP, sometimes they'll have IBP, they'll have QM. And that really kind of focuses predominantly in Australia and New Zealand anyways. You have, kind of steel manufacturing, you've got pharmaceuticals, and then obviously you've got FMCGs like, any kind of food and dairy type of manufacturers. So that's typically sort of where we see those types of requirements come through. That being said, there are also government contracts happening across Australia at the moment to kind of bring in different manufacturing hubs for defense. So that may potentially start coming up into a little bit more around that kind of PP manufacturing space. But in general, normally they're quite kind of condensed, if we had to put it that way.
Yeah.
Cool. Any final questions, or else I think that will pretty much that'll pretty much cover it.
All good. Look, guys, thanks very much for your time. Hope this was helpful. We do these every quarter, so feel free to come to the next one that we'll do in probably around October time. So yeah, look, feel free to reach out if you have any further questions that you need answered by me or Seb. Happy to help. And yeah, we'll speak with you all soon.